Hello there, welcome back to my channel. I'm Judy and I am the running so-and-so. Now I'm in a very funny position. Look, I'm dressed not in me made. It's not that it's hot or anything like that. I am comfortable today because I am cracking on with my outfit for Hannah's wedding party. So it's hair scraped off the face, comfortable clothes, freedom. I like to be able to work in freedom. Now, in true sewing style, it is 2 weeks on Saturday. I've got nothing to wear because I've pontificated and I've done other things. I've gardened and I've run and I've done everything else I should have done apart from making Hannah's outfit. I'm making 2 garments for this time for the wedding. It is in September. Last time it was November and I had a long sleeve dress. This time I'm toying with the idea of doing a sleeveless dress, and I have got the Monica dress by Apolline Patterns. Here we go. Now, this is a very simple, let me just bring it in so that you can see it. Can you see here? It's a cross. It's gathered at the top here and at the waist and similarly on the back. And I can either have a longer skirt, which is what I'm going to do, and I can have sleeves, little bell sleeves. I haven't decided about sleeves. I would rather not have sleeves because I know I'm going to get hot. I am a lady of a certain age and I think I'm still suffering menopausal symptoms, so I get hot very easily, hence the strappy tops. I am so hot. My heating bill, going off in a tangent here, talk about a widowhood goal, guys. This is a real goal. David would absolutely love this because he was always hot and he used to moan that I wanted the heating on. So he used to say, I'm looking forward to the menopause when you won't want the heating on. Tough, dear, you've missed. So look, I'm even growing my hair for the wedding. Going off a right tangent here, folks. Growing the hair for the wedding so I can have it sort of in a fancy do, in a little updo. It was too short before. Anyhow, so I'm maybe not have the sleeves, but this is it. It's the Monica dress by Apolline Patterns, and of course it'll be in the description box below. And in true Judy form, it is a French pattern. I think with my sewing at the moment, I want something different. And it's not that I don't like all the patterns that I see on Instagram. They're absolutely fantastic. I think Tilly has done the most fantastic job at promoting sewing with the patterns that she's creating. I just don't want to make them for me. So that's the only reason I'm not making them. They're not for me. I want something a little bit more classic. Now this is from, and I've done a bit of research here, this is from her celebration range and it is part of her. It is for the ceremony, so ceremonies and festivals. So the ceremony is for marriages and it was in her Marie collection, her wedding collection. So I thought it would be perfect for the mother of the bride. I'm not showing you the fabric yet, other than to say it's exactly the same as what I had last time. So nip down and see the Zenith dress if you want to. But I need something to wear with it. Don't be too surprised, it's good old Maison Fauve again. Here we are, and this is the Camellia jacket. Now, it's not on her website anymore, and I got this one a few weeks ago off the Atelier Brunette website, and I'm not even going to link it in the description box below because it's not on either of their websites. I have checked. So it is basically your classic round neck boxed Chanel-esque style jacket. And she does have a little feature in it. Here's the line drawing. It is a little cutout here and it's got a band down the front. I'm going to come to show you the fabric when I come back to vlogging a bit later. And here it is again. You can see it there. Now, what I'm going to do now is I am going to alter the sleeve because being a lady of a certain age, I have got bingo wings. And that's the last you'll see of them. I've got narrow shoulders. I'm really narrow up here, really tiny up here. I've got a tiny, tiny waist, but I've got a wind player's diaphragm, which means if you look at me from the side, I look thin front on because I've got no waist. But when you look at me the other way, I've got not only have I got my mummy tummy, I've got a diaphragm above my waist, so I sort of go out, in and out again, and it does impact on the waist at the front. So sideways on, I'm very narrow, but when you look at it front ways, I'm narrow at the back, but I've got this developed diaphragm from wind playing, and I've been playing the oboe since I was 11, so my diaphragm is quite developed. My daughter has the same problem. It's not so developed, not so prominent on Tristan, and of course he does more playing than me. But at the stage when I was developing in my teenage years, I was playing the oboe. There you go. and you have to put a lot of air through. I mean, I don't know if any of you out there are oboe players, but you have a tiny little reed, definitely going off on a tangent here, tiny little reed, and you blow through it, and you have to roll your lips like this round the reed. And I wanted to play the flute, and I walked into this room and they said, I put myself in the flute corner, and this lady came over to me and she went, you over there, you're an oboist. And I went, what? I want to play the flute. She said, nope, not with lips like that, you're playing the oboe. It's basically, the less lip you have, the better, which is why I very rarely wear makeup, because if I put anything sort of bold on my lips, I think, oh, I've got lips and I don't know what to do. Now, so because I have the Wingo wings, the beautiful tailored sleeve doesn't go on me. Even when I lost all the weight, I still had a little bit there. So what I tend to do is to change them to make a little fuller sleeve. I'm not, in the Winifred Aldrich book it says puff sleeve, and I don't want to say that. Balloon sleeve is the latest term. I like the term balloon sleeve. It's much nicer. I will go with that. Don't like sewist, I'm a sewer, but I will go with balloon sleeve. Now then, here we go. Now I'm pretty certain that there is an example of how to do this sleeve alteration on the internet. Just go onto YouTube. But what I have is the Winifred Aldrich Metric Pattern Cutting for Women's Wear book. Now, as I say on all of my vlogs, look, you can see my diaphragm there. What I say on all my vlogs is, I am not paid. So every opinion is my own. I'm not accepting paid promotions. I want to tell you what I like to use. And from there you may form your own opinion. It may be completely different to mine. It may be the same as mine. But as my brother used to say when we were younger, it takes all sorts to make a world, even licorice ones. And if you're not British, there is a sweet known as a licorice all sort. Hence the reason, licorice ones. So I like the Winifred Aldrich book because I find it very easy to use. Now I have done pattern cutting, I've done City and Guilds. So when I look at it, I know exactly what I want to achieve. And I know exactly how I want to go about it, trying to achieve. I want to put fullness in the sleeve so it looks like that. But I'm not bothered about it looking like so. I'd like it to look more like this one here, where you've got fullness at the top and straight here. But it will actually end up looking like that because I'm going to put fullness here and it will taper off. So I need to open the sleeve up like so and add in some fullness, and I will come back to you very shortly when I'm at that point. This is the sleeve, the lining bit of the sleeve. I'm just going to zoom you in a little bit. And whatever I do to the lining sleeve, I have to do to the main sleeve, which is just out of shot. It's just there at the moment. Now then, what I've done is I found the centre point that I want to cut down. Here is the grain line, which is not marked, GL, grain line. And I am going to cut along the marks that I have made on this sleeve. But I can't do it yet because I have not done it to the other sleeve. And what I've done here on the other sleeve, which is the main sleeve, is I've folded it as you should do, because I've got the grain line here, and I'm going to mark it in where I want it to cut. So I have the camera looking down on what I'm doing, and I'm actually working on the top sleeve. So I'm actually going to cut down the lines that I've marked. Now my scissors are really sharp, my paper scissors, and they will actually slide, which is so, it makes cutting out patterns so much easier. Because we actually want them to pivot, we then have to cut back up the seam allowance. So we cut back up the seam allowance to this, from the bottom, we're cutting through the seam allowance, but we're not going through, we're going literally to up the line, so you don't cut through. Now I've just cut through, which is a good one for you there. I've just cut through. It's never a problem in the Watson household. Bit of sticky tape over the cut. Snip down from the top and up from the bottom, and hopefully we'll be okay this time. There we go. All the way through and there. But at the top, because the sleeve needs to open, you go straight through. Alright, just go straight through at the top so the sleeve will fan out. Right, I'm hoping that you can see the whole sleeve here. And I will be stood at this end, working downwards. And all being well, you can see what it is that I'm doing. Now then, bicep measurement is across here, which is the bottom of the sleeve of the armhole. Just measured my bicep, and it's quite large, 13 inches. So I've just laid this on roughly, got my tape measure out. Oh, just one other thing, that when you are doing all your pattern drafting stuff, or your pattern alterations, you need to make certain that you come fully equipped. So I have got my French curve, I've got my tape measure, I've got a glue stick, my television remote control, and I like to have noise, it's got the radio on it as well, sellotape, a sticky tape of any description that you might like, that's just an A, another one, pencil sharpener, and a pencil. And I've got my book to one side. Pencil sharpeners are raised. This is just a cheap electric pencil sharpener from Amazon. You can buy them in any stationery store, any of these cheap stationery outlets. Similarly with the glue. But you need to have what you need to use on hand to make your life easier. And the ruler is the most important. Measurement is really, really good. I used to say to the children at school, if you don't know why you need maths, think about when you're adding your shopping up, or if you want to do any kind of DIY or any kind of crafting, you will need to know. So I have just literally laid this on now, and that is going to give me plenty of ease. At the moment, the width of the sleeve is just under 17 inches, or we could just say it is 43 centimetres. Now that would give me loads and loads of ease in the sleeve, and it would make the whole garment so much easier to manoeuvre in. And also I've got to think of myself is that I'm not a fitted jacket person. I don't tend to wear ultra smart clothes all the time. As you can see, is I've laid the opened out sleeve on another piece of pattern paper. This makes it easier. You can do it where you actually add the panels in, which is what I did at college because we didn't have any wastage. But believe me, when you're doing this at home, you just want it to be easy. But before I do anything else, I'm just going to wander around to see how much I've got knocking down the bottom here. Oh, because if I pull this bit down here, I might be able to lengthen the rest of it by adding a piece on the bottom. So I'm just going to pull my cuff down here, because as it's opened out, it's not changed the cuff end at all. That's really nice. And there's no cuff to the jacket, it's just literally folded in on itself. So what you have to do is to make certain that the point, which is the bicep point, that the amount that you've opened the sleeve up by is exactly the same at each particular one. So what I do, and this is me, what I do is I will now stick with glue the centre one down. And I am going to put you on time lapse, and then as I do the different things, as I go through the time lapse, I will add in little notes underneath. So I will stick the first one down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the first one down, and then I will then move on to putting the measurements in. But before I do that, so the bottom doesn't move, I'm just going to use a little bit of sticky tape just to hold it in place. And I'm going to stick this middle one down, which says the grain line, because that needs to be the straight grain. I bet anything I've got the old glue that I've already used half of. Don't worry about anything moving, you can always put it back. Now I've got it held underneath. Sorry if you can hear dogs in the background. Maggie's going to go off barking and I'll have to run outside and tell her not to bark. There we go. So this one is now held in place. And it is actually rolling straight down here, as so. So I'm quite happy with that, and apologies for Maggie, I'm going to stop, I'm going to call her back in. In, now. I'm back again. So now I'm going to start to measure. And the whole point of measuring is that you know where you're going to stick the next bit down. I'm just going to put down my actual, where I thought I might like it. thinking we might like it about here. So I'm going to actually, with a piece of tape, because this is where I want it, I'm going to put these bits down with a piece of tape so they don't move. And as I say, this is one of the easiest alterations to do your balloon sleeve from your very simple straight sleeve block. You can virtually not go wrong with it. I've done it loads. I've done it on the Barbie top as well. Now you can use by eye. You can go by eye if you want to, or you can move so that they're all the same distance between. So I am going to go. So here we've got 2. I need to move that over. Let's put that at 2.5. Let's put this one at 2.5. Might be useful if I actually had my pattern weights out. Let me use my telephone here so that it doesn't move. And Maggie, stop that please. Can't move that any further. So we now know we're not going to be at 2.5 because 2.5 is too much. So there we go. Well, actually no, 2.5 is right because the centre one's here and I will have to play games with that. Right. Now that is evened out. I've evened it out as evenly as I can do, and I'm now going to attempt to stick it down. I've measured across the sleeve, the bicep measurement. We're at roughly 2.5 centimetres. There's one where it's very slightly narrower, but that's just literally how the sleeve is falling to get it to the size that I want it. So I'm going to stick those down and I shall come back to you in a minute. We're recording, I think. There we go. Now, it's all down. The sleeve now fans out. I've got 43 centimetres across the bicep now, and I initially had with the pattern, well, it was really tight actually when I tried it on. And my bicep measured up at 33 centimetres. So I've actually given it 10 centimetres of ease. That I actually got the sleeve thing in at that point. Now, I've given myself 10 centimetres, which will be more than enough. I don't want it to be overly gathered. I just want it to have some fullness. Now, with the sleeve head here, I don't think you can really see it because it's so dark. Let me put a pencil line on. Can you see here where I've got the sleeve head? There, I've put the sleeve head on. Now that sleeve head will be gathered. It will be gathered in from here to here, and it will be gathered to fit in. And it's going to give it a gentle amount of gather to give it nice gentle ease without being an outlandish statement. And you'll understand why I've chosen to do that when you see the fabric that I'm going to use, which will be later on in the vlog. At the moment, the priority is getting these patterns sorted. Just folding up the bottom there. So I've actually got the original sleeve head here. Now, if I actually wanted to incorporate the original sleeve head, what it'll do is it will give me height so that if you, oh, I don't know if you can see this, if that was a shoulder, rather than it just being a sleeve that comes down like so, if I actually lift the sleeve head up like so, it will make the sleeve go like that, rather than just be a gentle curve down. So I don't want the up and over, I want a nice gentle curve down. So what I'm going to do is, rather than tracing off the old sleeve head, I'm just going to use my French curve just to give it a bit of a nice curve as it goes round. If you've got a flexi curve, that's a good thing to use because you can get quite an equal line on that. So I'm just going to trace it off there, and that will give me a nice gentle curve over the top of my sleeve. And that is one of the sleeves done, and I now will do exactly the same on the other one. Now, as you can see, I'm sat at the sewing table and ready to cut out. So with the peach, no, I'm going to say peach Melba because peach Melba's a dessert. With the Melba viscose from Atelier Brunette, I am going to make the Apolline Monica dress, the jacket, as I mentioned earlier. here, the Camellia jacket by Maison Fauve, I'm going to use the Atelier Brunette jacquard, which has been done in a collaboration with Studio Walkie Talkie. Here it is. Let's tip it down. It is absolutely stunning. Now, as you can see, this is why I like Atelier Brunette, and as again, I'm not being paid to say this, you can see the two different colours from their colour palette that work into here. We've got the Melba, or the, probably put the tangerine, or that could be a tiny bit dark, but it is the Melba that goes beautifully with it. So I could use the Melba here, or I could use the blush. Both of them go and both of them work. Now, I bought the blush to line the jacket with because I was going to use it to make the blouse on Sunset, and then I thought, no, I'm actually going to use it to make this. But I cannot help but think it actually looks really nice with the Melba. But now I've got it under the camera, I like it with this. Either way, it will work. So my thought is, I've got quite a lot of the Melba, and if I can make it work, I'm going to use the Melba, because that way I can utilise the fabric to the best of my ability and not have any wastage. So I'm just going to lift the camera up, and over here, it's going to show you over there to the top of the dress in, and I am just going to do some very simple running stitch tailor's tacks on there just to show the markings for the pleats. And I tend to do my tailor's tacks, as I've said before, when the fabric is on the table, because it just doesn't move as much, so you get them in the accurate spot. So I'm going to stop you, and I will come back when I've got everything put on before I cut out, just to make certain I've got this okay. Hello. Now, jacket and dress are both cut out. A lining for the dress came this morning. I've washed it, hung it out, and unfortunately it's rained on it. I am down here. Hello. So this is the jacquard from Atelier Brunette, and I have to say it's proving to be one of the most delightful things to sew. It's nice and thick, and it's got some substance to it, and it's just going through the machine beautifully. As I've said before, I've got myself on it's a 3.35 length stitch. Never ever do I do a small stitch. I had to draw my own seam allowances on this pattern, so I know that I have got a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. It's pinned nicely, and with it being a lined jacket, I haven't got to neaten the seams. Good morning, everybody. Sunday morning here. It's a lovely sunny day up here in Yorkshire. Today we have the village's 10k run, and I suspect all these cars going in the opposite direction are off to do the run. Maybe I'll do it next year, but this year, with all the chest issues that I've had, I just wasn't ready for doing a 10k run. I'm up to 4 miles, 10k is 6 miles. I'm up to a comfortable 4, could probably manage 4.5, but I do like to run with the girls. It does give you a little bit of momentum, but it's just how my body's been conditioned. It's been conditioned to running with dogs. So I shall get onto the committee and say, how about having a canicross section at the end? And I'm sure if it means more money for the Village Playing Fields Association, that they'll say yes. Believe me, if they let the dogs in, they could have so many more runners coming along. It would be amazing. The rest of the day, I was having a chat with Rachel yesterday, and we were talking pattern drafting. And I don't know whether she's mentioned it on her vlogs yet, so I'm not going to say any more than pattern drafting. But this morning, I'm going to Rachel's to draft patterns. We are going to draft a bodice block for Rachel. And while she is doing her drafting and following instructions, I'm going to be stood there, dragging up all my memories from my pattern cutting courses and pattern drafting courses to help her achieve the perfect bodice block, from which she can start to create her own clothes. Now, as I have mentioned before, sewing is an accurate art, and when you start dividing these measurements by a half or a quarter or a fifth or an eighth, you end up with silly measurements like 12.75 centimetres. And believe me, you have really got to try and get it to 12.75 centimetres. If that's what it says, you know, you cannot sort of round round it up to 13. If you start rounding up, you're going to open the garment that's either far too big or far too small. So I'm going to Rachel's as moral support and an extra pair of eyes, ears, brain, and together we're going to do this pattern drafting. So it will be a fun morning. And while she's doing that, I have popped in my little sewing machine, which is sat on the seat next to me, little baby Benina, and we are going to finish off my camellia jacket by Maison Fauve. I have put in the sleeves and I'm so pleased with the effect. The way that the jacket goes together is actually very, very different, but it's not a proper set-in sleeve, which is quite unusual because I've joined the shoulders but not the side seams, and I've put the sleeve in over the top. As you know, I've put some fullness into the sleeve, and for the lining I've put the fullness all the way around, but for the top sleeve I have only put the fullness actually at the shoulder seam. There's not a great deal of fullness and the fabric has taken it beautifully. I don't want the sleeve to stand up. You know, I don't want a Fergie sleeve where she used to have these ridiculous sleeves where they would be so tightly gathered here. It pushes up the fabric and then you can bring it back down to a tight cuff. I'm not doing anything like that. I just wanted just a little bit of gentle fullness in the sleeve to create a feature but not to be over the top. So I shall catch up with you when I get to Rachel's. Well done, Maggie. Evidence that you're swimming. She didn't realise that she can't pick up a stone. Swimming lessons are paying off, aren't they?
Absolutely.
It's almost as if ever since she started to swim, she's realised she can swim. She's in all the time. Thing is, it's just deep enough for her so she can. Did we get her? We didn't do anything. Well, good afternoon. As I said, I would show you what was happening when I got to Rachel's. Here she is. She's down at her end. We've got Rachel down here making a. Am I allowed to say what you're making?
Bodice
She
block.
is making a bodice block. And I didn't want to say anything when I was driving down.
Piper.
Piper in the background. Say what we were going to do because I wanted to check with Rachel that she was happy. Basically, it's knowledge shared, and that's what life's all about: sharing knowledge and sharing skills. So I'm hoping you're happy.
I'm going to go try it on now.
Will you try it on? While she's trying it on, I will show you what I've been doing. So we have a band that goes around here. It's like just a decorative ribbon band. And we've had to get these really sharp corners. Now this one's worked, but on the other side I've taken it out about 5 times because it does not match this one. This one's very good, but the other one doesn't. But I'm really happy with the way the sleeves have come out. They have raised very slightly. Back down to Rachel's sewing table. We started off somewhere here. We have got a big draft bodice block, and we've used, as I mentioned earlier in this vlog, the Winifred Aldrich pattern cutting book, which I will link in the description box below. And we have traced off, oh gosh, I don't know how many toiles and tracing offs you've done today, but we've done a lot, and we have got to this bit here. So we now have a block that fits, and if I just go behind and you hold that there, I think if I hold it up there, how does that feel?
Feels really good.
Yeah, it's a really close fit, and we've actually got, even though I'm holding it there, we've actually got the neck lying down. Well, I should pin that in, and I'm going to deal with my puppy in a minute. The only thing I could think is we've got a slight... Now, I know you can't see me and I'm wearing my running wear because I've been out with Melanie, but the camellia jacket is pulled through and I have got my lovely soft, full of sleeves that suit me better, and I'm not going to show you any more than this at the moment because I have literally just pulled it through and I just couldn't wait to put it on because I absolutely adore it. Let me just tilt you down slightly so that you can see if we can get a better shot. To just come to here, and obviously this will be the waistline of the dress, and the dress is this colour, Stay with Rachel. Just a little bit of the pattern cutting there, and mostly me getting on with sewing this. I am going to cut the video here and do the dress on the next vlog. One of the biggest problems I've got here at home is that if I've got a longer vlog, it just takes forever to go up, so it's just not worth it. I've got to keep them to under 20 minutes, so I film too much and then take loads and loads out. We had a lovely time. It was a really true sewing together to help somebody achieve something, and that is what the sewing community is about. It's actually about saying, look, I'm only around the corner from you, let's get together, let's try and fix that together, let's try and learn something together, let's try and do something together. Remember, life's about giving. We'll see you later. Bye bye.